Welcome, everybody, to Casting for Two with your host, this guy, the random guy. Hey, everybody, welcome. This is episode number 241. How are you all doing? Now, if you're sitting in your car or on your bed or in a chair and you answer that question, I'm not going to hear it. So why don't you maybe tweet me, Instagram me, both at Casting for Two. You can also send me an email, castingfor2@gmail.com. And yeah, so I'm on that Viero. Anybody do that Viero thing? I signed up on a whim. Don't know what to do with it, but I got one. Anyway, how's it going, everybody? Welcome. Like I said, this is episode number 241, and I have a great guest for you today. I'm happy to announce, though, soon I will be doing another podcast. Yes, another podcast, because I'm crazy and I like doing podcasts. This one is with Josh Silverman, head honcho over at Constantly Calibrating. I've been working with them for a while now, and we came up with this idea of a podcast. So it's called Ramble Jam, and hope we'll be starting it soon. So, of course, I will let you know when that happens. But if you want to check out their content, it's over at constantlycalibrating.com. I suggest you do that. And also check out their streams on Mixer because they're awesome. But anyway, let me get back to my guest for today. I got the wonderful Chris Santos. Love his name. Love it. I don't know why I like it so much. I know why. Santos. No, we actually do have a discussion about names since we are both named Chris. But Chris Santos is a wonderful actor who has a new film debuting at South by Southwest. But you know what? Let me stop talking and let's get into this. So sit back, relax, and Chris, cue the music, please. It's been a while since I last chatted to another Chris.
It's always great talking to a Chris.
Right? Now, let me ask you a question. Are you a fan of being called Christopher?
I only get called Christopher by my mother or a girlfriend when I've done something wrong. So when I hear that name, I know I'm in trouble.
Right.
How about you?
I get the same thing. No, it's my full name and then my middle name. That's when I know.
Oh, yeah. That's big time.
Yeah. But it was so weird because when I was in high school, I had this one female friend who would call me Christopher, and it was just like I kind of dig this. I don't know why. It's because everybody just called me Chris except for this one person, and it was just something about that one person that was like, okay.
Well, I feel like when we get older, it turns into Christopher. You know, like when you're young, it's Chris. When you get older, it's Christopher. But funny enough, so my name is Christopher Patrick Santos. Mm-hmm. But ever since I was young, nobody calls me Chris or Christopher, except for I'm in trouble. Everyone seems to call me Santos. And I don't know why, because there's 5 kids in my family. Everyone calls everyone by their first name, except for me. And I don't know what that is. But everyone ends up calling me Santos. Every teacher, every person, even girlfriends end up calling me Santos. I don't know why.
That's interesting. Yeah. And it's okay. So when my group of friends, they don't call me Chris. They call me Nando, which is, my last name is Hernandez.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess they just like using our last names, kind of.
Yeah, I don't know, or maybe they don't like Chris. Maybe nobody likes Chris.
Maybe, yeah, that could be a thing. Yeah, everybody just hates the name.
Well, I like Chris, and I like your name.
Well, I like yours too. Now, if I might change my name to it, maybe legally. Who knows?
Uh,
But how's your morning going so far?
my morning is going great. I just got back from an audition actually, and spaced out some time to talk with you, and then on to some more meetings.
Okay, nice, nice. Now, may I ask, what is your audition prep like?
Great question. Well, it involves a lot of funny, interesting things. I mean, depending on how big, how many sides and pages there are required. I seem to look at every piece of material in its own light and sort of like figure out what would be the best way to approach something like this.
Hmm.
Because an audition at the end of the day, you're not filming the job. It's as it was told to me a long time ago, and I really changed my mind thinking about it. Is you're just really proving to them you're capable of doing this thing.
Right.
You're not. They're not taking the audition tape and putting it in the film. So really, you want to identify to them, I'm capable of doing this. I understand the part. I understand the role, and give them a sense of sort of who you are and if they want to be on set with you for the next 6 months, because that's a big part of it as well. So I look at what the piece is. Try to analyze, who this character is, what they're going after, and then really just try to deliver to them, sort of a look at, this slice of this person, this moment in time of this character, however I think that's going to come across best.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
also try to, figure out some sort of idiosyncratic behavior that this person has. Are they from New York? Are they from California? Are they from somewhere else? Are they a cop? Are they a doctor? How does that affect how they, sort of physically work that into their speech? You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay. But you don't go into any auditions like, these are my lucky socks that I wear to every audition.
No, it's it's funny. I don't look at it. I'm not superstitious in that way. I
Okay.
go into every audition saying, I know I've gone through my punch list or my checklist of being prepared.
Gotcha.
If that
Okay.
makes sense.
And so, when you're creating this character's backstory, is it something that you would share to anybody in the creative process, whether it's the other actors, the directors, the writers, anything like that?
Well, so like there's two forms of acting primarily, right? There's substitution-based acting, whereas let's say I have a scene with this character and his girlfriend. Well, I can substitute that character's girlfriend with my girlfriend or my ex-girlfriend or whatever, or anybody. Really, it's as I see, it's like a shortcut into like an emotional reality.
Hmm.
And so I'm just going to plug, you know, my issues and my backstory with my ex into this ex because they seem to be, the character. There's only so many scenarios we all go through in life. We fall in love, we make money, we fail, we break up, we get sick, or we overcome some sort of obstacle.
Right.
We all go through the human experience together. So substitution is one way of doing it. You can plug in, similar people to the characters you're playing and quickly download it, and create some sort of emotional reality. That's better in like quick scenarios where here's, 8 pages tomorrow, 11 a.m., a longer form to that would be like, okay, you've got the part and it's shooting in 2 months. And now is the other type of method type of acting where you're going to create this person's life from birth till the day of they start speaking on film,
Gotcha. Okay.
which is another process. And I'm studied at both processes. So again, there's long form and short form, and they're both very effective. And for some projects where it's a character where I've lived many instances that this character has, well, I'm going to just base it off of my experiences, and if it's not, well, then I'm going to build them in.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, when you've gone through any audition and gone through the character and study and anything like that, is there one character that stayed with you for a bit?
Yeah, there's a lot of characters that end up staying with you for a long time. I mean, I guess it's different for everybody, but I have a very good memory.
Mm.
And so it's interesting to me. I had an audition for a film, two films actually at the same time. They had both directors there and the casting directors. And the audition email was basically like, just bring in any two characters you would like to work on in a film.
Okay.
There's no rules. There's no typical character we're looking for. Just bring in any two people you would like to play. And at first I got really upset and angry, and they're like, "Oh, and by the way, it's tomorrow or in 2 days from now." And I was like, "Wow, you want me to build two unique characters from scratch, and they're going to be improvising, so it's not like you're going to have lines to even go off of. Like you're just going to walk into this room, and you're going to have to be these two characters." And so I spent a lot of time oh, well, I wrote down like 100 different characters that like I'd like to play, and then I started realizing that, wait a minute, I always study. I've studied for the last 10 years, multiple schools. And so I was just like, how many characters are in there that have stayed with me, which is exactly the question you just asked. I made a whole other list of all these characters that they're not with me like, hey, I'm walking down the street. But if I sit back and I think about the characters that really touched my heart, there were a bunch. And, I made a list of that. And then I picked two. And yeah, once I hadn't thought about them in months or years in some cases. And the minute I thought about them, they sort of just like bubbled back up to the surface. And I guess that's a testament to really doing specific sort of work, which anybody's capable of doing. But yeah, they do stay with you.
Nice. And so for you, when was acting something that you wanted to pursue?
Well, there's 5 kids in my family,
Yeah.
and probably about the age of 12 for me, my mom sort of just pushed us all in front of a camera, against our will. And of course, when you're a kid, you want nothing to do. Well, when I was a kid, I was more interested in playing. You meet those actors that are like born and they just know they know, they have their Oscar speech and they know Destiny was acting, and I wasn't. I wanted to go play at 12. And
how dare you?
Yeah, how dare I? And so my mom sort of, pushed us in front of cameras, and we did what she said. And I noticed that I was good in front of a camera. It didn't intimidate me, and it didn't make me self-conscious. And I kind of understood it as a thing. And I ended up, at 12, booking my first role in Rob Weiss's first film. Mm-hmm. Rob Weiss's Ballers and Entourage, and I booked the first film he did, the lead of the film, as a kid. And I'm from Long Island, New York, and it was cool because he lived in Long Island, and my mom just sort of drove me to his house, and he had castings in his backyard. And it was this really like funny story for me, and I did that film, and I really, really enjoyed it, and it just sort of became something, in sort of like falling into these, imaginary circumstances really came easy for me, and became a new form of playing for me as well as I saw it. And that was really the first time I got the itch for it.
Nice. And so after that, you decided to, because you said you went to multiple schools for acting?
Well, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, my story is kind of it's not a linear story. From about 12 to, I'd say 19, I acted. And then at about, 19 years old, I sort of didn't want to be in front of a camera anymore. And I wanted to just like do my own thing. And whether that was a form of revolting against, my mother, or just sort of like wanting to find my own way, I like shied away and kind of left it. And I was always an athlete when I was younger, and I sort of fell into personal training and really found a passion and a love for that, like helping people and changing people's lives in that way. And did that for about 10 years. But over that 10 years, all of my brothers and sisters sort of migrated to Los Angeles. So at one point, my mom called me and was like, Christopher, we have to have a conversation. I'm going to be moving to California soon. Mm-hmm. And so after some hard thinking, I made a very tough decision to just sort of like collapse my life in New York and move out to Los Angeles. And then when I got out here, I made another decision that I just wanted to start fresh. I wanted to start over in a new city. I didn't want to personal train anymore, and I enjoyed it, but I was done with it. And was like, well, I always enjoyed that acting thing, and I'd like to get back at it. And at least this time it's me doing it on my own terms. And so that's what I did. And then after being out here for about 6 months, I got a call from David Levine, who was a client of mine for 10 years. Funny enough, he was one of my first clients I got. And he was just like, hey, Chris, what's up? I know you moved to LA. I know you're out there sort of like getting into acting. Well, I just wrote this film while writing Ocean's 13 with Steven Soderbergh in Vegas. And it turns out like one of the characters is a personal trainer. And I want to sit you down with Steven and, give us some sort of notes. And I realize I've like kind of funneled you into this character. So like maybe you sit with us, give us some ideas and I'll try to get you a check, it could help you while you're out there in LA. And I was like, wonderful. I would gladly take a check. And so after about a year later, Steven Soderbergh called me and I sat with him and we had dinner together, and he took down, had a bunch of questions and notes and stuff like that. And at the end of dinner, he closed the book and said, you know what, you're going to be in this film.
And you said, no, thank you.
I said, no, sir. Well, funny enough, we were actually drinking and I did say like, come on, like, you're not going to cast me. You could cast anybody in the world. Why would you cast me?
Yeah.
And you started laughing. You said, this is a very unique reaction to me telling an actor they're going to be in my film. So I said, listen, call me tomorrow when you're sober and tell me this is true. Otherwise, I'm not believing this. And he did. The next morning he called me and said, okay, I'm sober and hungover and you still have the part. And, then I celebrated. But at that time, I said to him, what should I do? I hadn't started studying, the technical craft of acting at that time. And he said, don't do anything. I'm going to walk you through this myself. And he did, nice. Which was a great experience.
And Steven Soderbergh is one of those, I have a lot of respect for him just because of, he's one of these people who does everything, which is great. He's very talented. But the movies he just cranks out is just, I grew up watching the Ocean's films and I probably watch them every year just because I love them so much. Mm-hmm. And then when I saw Lucky Logan recently, it was just, oh my gosh, why didn't I see this earlier?
Yeah.
But the Girlfriend Experience, I remember watching it back in the day because one of my film teachers was talking about it, and because he was a huge Soderbergh fan, and so I think that's why I watched it, and I just thought how well Soderbergh plays quiet moments is just so great.
Yeah, what an interesting thing. And by the way, I wasn't sidestepping the question about studying, and I want to answer that question. It's just in the timeline of me, that came after the Girlfriend Experience. So once we get through this part, then I'll go to, which I do want to talk about because I think it's important, is the studying of acting. But
yeah, absolutely.
With Steven, that's again, you asked really great questions, Chris. But there was times where, the movie was predominantly improv based, mm-hmm. and he would say, okay, Chris, he would give me very little and say, okay, Chris, I want you to go in there and I kind of want you to, here's what you're dealing with, go deal with it. And I would be in these scenes with these people and he would just leave me out there at one point, I think the longest he ever left me out there was like over 10 minutes without calling cut.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot about yourself when you're hanging out there for 10 or 12 minutes in improv scenario and, there's people watching you and you need to keep going. And it's also interesting because you say everything you planned. I'm going to talk about this. I'm talking about that. And then you run out of all that and then you go dry and it creates this really interesting behavior. And there's really interesting moments between, these, we call them pregnant moments between people. And then you find some more stuff from there. And I remember in the Girlfriend Experience, there was the breakup scene. Mm. And that was when he left it the longest. I think he left it for, close to 15 minutes. He left us sitting there before he called cut. And it was so frustrating because Sasha just wasn't saying very much to me, and it was upsetting me both as the character and myself. Like, we live together, we're in a relationship together. Like, speak to me, talk to me. And she kept really just giving me these sort of short, to the point answers, and one of the first rule of improv is yes and she was giving me no and no. And so it really like got me, and there's no cut, so there's no cut. It's hanging. I'm with her. She's like giving me not very much. And so it was making me crazy. And I remember leaving it and going home and talked to my friend. I said, oh my God, it was the worst. It was the worst. It was the worst scene I've ever done. It's terrible. It's horrible. And he's like, how long ago did you shoot this? And I was like, I shot it like 10 hours ago. And he goes, if you're this upset 10 hours later, it's going to be the best scene in the film. And he was right. It was the strongest scene. And there were so many moments between her and I where I'm just like, I'm not going to say anything till you say something. And she just wasn't saying anything, and kudos to her. And you end up with all these really great silent moments between two people.
Yeah.
You still got me, Chris?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here. Okay. Yeah. But yeah,
we just had a silent moment together.
You know what? I felt it. I felt it right there. No, that just goes back to what I was saying, because that movie is like that movie, and Bubble, his other movie, just so many good, solid, just quiet moments. So, and when you look back at that scene, is it one of your favorite scenes?
It is. It's my favorite scene. It's my favorite scene. It's also, I could see the frustration that I'm under. And like, you couldn't pick it up. You just be like, wow, this is really good. Like, this looks like a real breakup scene. Like, because I'm so frustrated with her, but as the character would be. And, that's another like thing for acting. So many actors want to, I guess, like sort of block out, if they're nervous or if they're angry or if they've had a bad day or if they're,
right.
They try to block out things to do other things. And it's most times I find it when other things are sort of bombarding me while I'm trying to accomplish this other thing, that it becomes the most interesting stuff to watch.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your training.
Yeah. So after I completed the girlfriend experience, I knew that, okay, my first job in LA is leading a Steven Soderbergh film.
Yeah.
Well, I better back this thing up and get as much studying done in the shortest amount of time possible, because I could get an opportunity or might get an opportunity after this. And if I'm not prepared, I'm going to mess this up. And so I immediately just spoke to everybody I know that's an actor in LA and came up with, again, another list of names that I thought were important. And went to the store and got a mountain of books and just started separating like what I thought would speak to me. And I came down to two people that I decided to start with, which was Ivana Chubbuck. She wrote a book called The Power of the Actor, and I started reading that. And then a lot of people recommended Leslie Kahn, who is a great comedic coach. And so I thought, let me start here. And I started with both of them at the same time. And the funny story to all this is, and even including during this was, after I got the film, before I even got the film done, everyone was like, we need an agent. You need a man. I didn't even have a headshot. They're like, you need an agent, you need a manager. Like, what are you doing? You need a team. And so I went and had people send me up with their agents. And in the first meeting I sat with this guy, and he's like, what are you doing in my office? And like, do you want to do commercials? Like, I'm a lit agent. Like, what are you doing here? And I said, well, listen, I just got to LA about a year ago, and I'm going to be the lead of the next Steven Soderbergh film, and I really want to put a team together and like get behind this thing. He picked up the phone, called security, and had me thrown out. And that's a true story.
Oh, geez. All right.
And so then same thing. I waited till the film was done, and then I went, and my first meeting was with Leslie Kahn, and I like paid extra to meet with her alone and told her this story, to which she didn't believe me either, but it was Googleable at that point, and she did, and was like, oh my God, wait, are you telling me you're an actor? you just got done doing a big film and you thought, let me go study? And I was like, yes. And she got up and gave me the biggest hug ever and was like, oh my God, do you have any idea how rare that is? And I thought, well, not for me. And so I started studying with both of them and did so for a very long time. And from there, there's sort of went as like a pecking order of down the list of every great acting coach. I'm with Margie Haber, Deb Aquila, and the list goes on of every coach I thought had a good reputation and represented and taught some great actors. And I went and studied with them till I reached their highest level. And now I'd like to say feel absolutely and supremely educated on the technical side of acting.
Nice. Now, were there ever any moments, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody, any acting people, there are acting teachers that will say, you have to think about blah, blah, blah. And then there are other acting teachers that will say, don't think about blah, blah, blah. What do you do in that sense?
Well, look, at the end of the day, and I think this is for any creative out there, this is something that helps me a lot is, notes are notes.
Yeah.
Nobody's offending your mother. Nobody's killing your sister. A note is simply that. It's a note. It's for you to decipher. It's for you to maybe glean some knowledge out of. And if it does nothing for you, you drop it. And it's that easy. I feel like, so many people get so offended by notes or ideas. They're just ideas. They're just ideas. And anytime someone gives me an idea or a note, I say, thank you. And I think about it. There's an immediate, I feel like, knee-jerk reaction to like, no, that's not how I see it, or that's not how. Well, who knows? Just hear it. At least hear it. Think about it. If you're on set with a director and he says, some directors don't know how to talk to actors and some directors do. Some director might say, can you do it again, but make it darker? Now, I have no idea what that means. But if I was to say that to him, guess what he would say? You're fired.
Yeah.
So my job is to hear the note, not judge it. That's actually what I'd like to say. It's not for me to judge. It's for me to comprehend and say, okay, darker. Well, maybe I have a secret that I can't share with this person, or maybe there's some information that if I told this person, they wouldn't help me. Well, that's definitely going to create a sense of darkness to it, or, at least a layer of something that's going to be like, what is going on with this guy? Mm-hmm. And that accomplishes and then you do it and the director's like, wow, that was great. That was so dark. You're like, oh yeah, that was dark. I've gotten notes from acting coaches and where they're like, yes, I see this as this, and you should do that. And you should think of this and you should do that. And I go, oh my God, thank you so much. That's so helpful. Sometimes I don't listen to any of it. So that's how I answer that.
Gotcha. Okay. I was working on this shoot, and it had been a while since I had done anything film related. And I thought it'd be real funny. I get whatever I wanted, whatever the actor wanted. I'd say, okay, now do this as if you are Scary Spice. I would just name a different Spice Girl, even if it wasn't a real Spice Girl.
Right.
Like, give me Happy Spice.
Right.
And it was fun.
I think that's great. I think that's great. I mean, look, that's the most, random note ever, yet it brings a smile to your face. And you know what? I know how to do that. And even if I don't, I'm going to pretend I do.
Yeah.
So again, that's it. That's a great example right there.
This is one of the reasons why acting fascinates me, just because the type of person that is capable of opening their mind and digging deep inside themselves to become something else. It's truly fascinating to me.
Yeah. Well, this is you make a good point. And it's like a lot of people come to LA or wherever they are in the world and they say, I want to act. I don't really know what that means.
Right.
There should be a better definition of what acting actually means, and or at least what it means to me. Like the job description should be a little bit different, because if you say acting to somebody, they think like, fame and fortune and, right, makeup and hair. And, we're actually like paid money to open dark doors in our brain and our heart and our soul and like handle fire,
right,
like,
yeah.
that's not fun. There's nothing. And when, it's interesting when you're studying in these schools, or you're in this business long enough, you see people start to sort of comprehend what it's going to take, the emotional and spiritual cost of acting, going through something on film for other people to watch and identify with and heal. And you see the glint go out of their eye, and they're like, I didn't sign up for this. I don't want to do this.
Right.
And those are the people that end up quitting. Yes, you get paid a lot of money. I always say to people, you get paid a lot of money to do this. Do you think it was easy? It's not easy.
Right. Right. No, it makes total sense. Total sense.
Yeah.
But I understand that you have a movie premiering at South by Southwest coming up.
I do. Yes, I do. And the name of this film is Perfect. I'm really excited about this film. I met the director, Eddie Alcazar, randomly through some friends, and we just sort of clicked right away. And the film was not happening at that point. There was no film actually happening. We just really connected, and he saw The Girlfriend Experience and was a fan of Soderbergh and myself. And he, after seeing a short film he had done, I became a fan of his, and we just got along as friends. And he lived across the street from my house. So there you go. So we ended up hanging out a bunch, and he came up with the idea for this film and sort of put it all together, which was really great. And came up with a great idea for a character for me. And this whole thing has just really gone from like 0 to 900 miles per hour. He's so talented. He's so great. And after the film was done, he sort of said to me, Chris, I'd really love to have Steven see this thing if possible. Mm-hmm. Maybe just give me some creative notes, because it's a really interesting film. And I ended up doing it, and nervously. I'd never really asked him up until this point. Over the 10 years to do anything for me. And but we've always stayed friends, and so I did, because I believed in the project. I just knew that it was something I felt would really speak to him, and it did. He reached out to me and was like, this guy's really talented. I want to meet him. And I connected them, and they met, and Steven actually came on and helped Eddie edit the film, and has really become a driving force behind the film. So it's all been, gravy for me on that end.
Nice. His only note was breakup scene. It needs one. 15-minute breakup scene, please.
Well, he didn't direct this one, so thank God I didn't get stuck. And there was a straight script on this, so thank God I didn't get stuck on a 15-minute hang time.
They didn't tell you about the reshoots that's happening? Even I know about it.
You can fill in for me. I'll let you do the hang time.
All right, fair enough. I'm acting. For the people at home who would like to keep up with everything that you do, the projects that you do, all that good stuff, where can they do that?
Okay, so my handles for social media are on Instagram. They call me Santos, funny enough. On Twitter, it's I'm Chris Santos. I am Chris Santos. And that's the letter M, Chris Santos. And on Facebook, it's facebook.com/Chris.Santos with the number 3 at the end.
So I know we talked about first names in the beginning, but would you ever just go by Santos?
Funny enough, I've literally had people ask me and go, Santos, what's your first name? What's your last? Santos, what's your last name?
Santos.
Yeah,
Santos.
Santos. Santos is my last name. And they go, wait, what? Wait, I thought that was your first. I'm like, okay. But I think inevitably I will just be known as the artist named Santos.
Okay. Well, if it's all right, I'll call you Chris, okay?
You can always call me Chris anytime you want.
But Chris, thank you so much for chatting with me. I feel like we could do a whole nother podcast on character development.
Absolutely. I would love to do that.
But I feel like I should let you go and continue your busy day, though.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It was really great talking with you, Chris. I listen to your podcast, and I think you're great.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. And hopefully I can be up there because I'm in San Antonio. Hopefully I can make a trip up to South by. I've never been.
You know what? I've never been either, but I'm so excited, and you should come up.
I'm prepared to sleep in alleys if possible.
Hey, you know what? It's so hard to get housing up there. I might be sleeping next to you.
There we go. There, we'll have the nicest cardboard box in that alley. That's all I'm saying.
Chris and Chris. We'll have a CNC Music Factory. We'll have going on.
There we go. But you have a good one, all right, man?
All right. Good talking with you, Chris.
All right, you too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.